Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name's David Dungay. Today I'm joined by Akshay John, Head of Sales Engineering at Dstny Global Services. Welcome, Akshay. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, David. Thank you for having me here.
Fantastic. So today, actually, I'm very excited for our conversation. We're going to be talking about direct routing and how service providers can really utilize that to scale their business. But before we get into that conversation, do you want to give us a very quick introduction to yourself and Dstny?
Sure. So I'm heading up the sales engineering team at Dstny Global Services. Dstny ourselves are a European-based service provider serving partners globally with solutions that enable communications in the Microsoft Teams space, in Zoom, in Cisco, and also a significant player in the whole fixed mobile convergence capability.
Fantastic. So, well, let's get into the questions then. First, on the agenda, what are the primary advantages that direct routing offers CSPs when they're looking to grow their business alongside Microsoft Teams?
So when CSPs are typically approaching partners or customers within their spectrum, they're going out and trying to sell licenses and trying to grow the business in that sense. The one thing they've traditionally kept themselves steering clear of is the communication side of things for a plethora of reasons. I mean, it's complex, it's got heritage in there, it's got legacy equipment in there, and all sorts of other reasons that they try and avoid getting their foot into the comms space. Direct routing presents them a direct advantage in the sense that not only are they enabling the PSTN calling capability by selling licenses for it, but also they can now sit on the other end of where that PSTN breakout is going to be by bringing in services that allow them to bridge this Microsoft Teams space along with the PSTN world without really needing that technical complexity to be handled in-house or equipment that they need to put down. So through a provider like Dstny, they can leverage our call to team service, for example, that allows them to bridge this gap and get into the communication space, whether through a legacy set of equipment that might be existing in the partner space, or directly using SIP trunks that the partner can bring to the table, or maybe they can provide as well. So it does create opportunities for them to extend beyond just enabling the teams by selling licenses.
Yeah, you mentioned complexity there. We are seeing the complexity reduce in certain areas, and in fact, it's we're seeing a new entrance to the market because of that reduction in complexity. But the challenges still remain there. What are those some of those common challenges that you're seeing for those providers that are starting to offer direct routing services, and how can service providers proactively address them?
So service providers coming in with a new Teams offering, first of all, need to learn how to function in the Microsoft space. The Microsoft ecosystem is pretty well set. There's a community of partners and there's a way of working which has established itself over the numbers of years. And for any new entrant, I think that's the first part they need to get used to. How exactly do we fit into this space? How exactly are we relevant in this space, both commercially as well as technically, because we can't have that go away. So one of the challenges that they have to overcome is working in this ecosystem and trying to find relevance as a communications provider, which is then wrapping their communication service around a multitude of other products and service offerings that are enhancing them with value. The second part of the challenge comes in that when you're offering a team service today, there's options to choose from. So traditionally, we just had calling plans that came in from Microsoft, and you then gave a direct routing offer that brought in, your own SIP trunks, your own provider, your own legacy equipment that you could break out from. Now you've got Operator Connect as one of the options that they can look at as well. There's Teams Phone Mobile that's coming in as well. So service provider needs to clearly identify where their space is, what their strengths are, and again, based on the geographies that they'll be targeting, they need to find their foot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned creating that value there. Maybe we could just concentrate on that for a moment. In terms of the opportunity to create a value-added services. What does that look like for CSPs right now, and how is that helping them to tie in those customers?
So from Microsoft's perspective, and I think if you look at the industry shift, the word AI is becoming more and more prevalent. And I think it's something that I think for those of us who've been in the industry for a while, they don't find that something new to be coming across. But what's new about it is the user aspect of what that brings to the table in terms of a business user, and how it simplifies their work, or it enhances their productivity, or it makes the whole operational side of things a lot more efficient. The CSPs can jump onto this. So I think they need, if you look at any communication space, they need the voice element of it, which basically makes sure that that is not lost to them, not lost to the user, and most importantly, not lost to the provider who is bringing that business to the table. They can come in and they can enhance the value by jumping on the bandwagon that's going on with AI. They can supplement it with services that include customer experience. And the unification of a customer experience is another big focus area for Dstny, and we are seeing a lot of leverage coming out of that, where basically if you have the traditional sense of help centers, for example, how do we enhance that with people who don't normally sit behind a desk just taking calls and servicing customers the whole time? So there's various elements they can bring in, and again, that feeds into that earlier topic of the ecosystem we were speaking about, where they can partner up and bring these enhanced services and values beyond just selling the licenses and perhaps enabling the voice piece that we're looking at, because voice does form the core of all communications, even to this day.
So, Akshay, you mentioned a few of the different services there that providers can choose from. Teams Mobile, Operator Connect. But if we stick with direct routing for a moment, I want to get an idea of the flexibility of direct routing and how that enables providers to really scale their communications infrastructure as their business grows. What does that look like exactly?
Sure. So I think in terms of infrastructure scaling, David, providers as much as possible are trying not to invest in additional infrastructure that will grow their overheads and grow the base of what they already have in place. They're looking more at optimizing how exactly they will be able to leverage what they've got in place and be able to scale up and grow from there. So as a result, what they try and do is push as much of this infrastructure investment scaling, integrations into the different providers like Microsoft Teams to middleware providers like ourselves. And what they focus then on is how exactly can we, using the existing footprint we have, whether it's nationally or in most cases globally, leverage now the Microsoft Teams calling capability without really having to start from scratch. And that's where I think they go in and are then able to enhance and increase their footprint using the infrastructure they have currently in place, and it gives them a global reach without necessarily having to invest in equipment or infrastructure to put down in those areas. And with the core networks as they have and traditionally have built, they now can leverage maximum scale and capacity over it.
Yeah, so you spoke about AI a moment ago as well, and maybe let's talk about automation. AI and automation quite often they come hand in hand, but maybe we should talk about the role that you're seeing automation play. When it comes to simplifying the deployment and the management of direct routing solutions. What role is that? When it comes to service providers providing these services.
In the absence of automation, the service providers will need to invest in technology or skills to build this pipe up towards Microsoft for direct routing, if you look at it. So there's a number of technical elements that come into play over there in terms of what the provision needs to be done, whether it's through PowerShell, whether it's through Graph APIs, whether but you need that level of knowledge. You also then need that level of repetition that needs to happen. Automation plays a big part in simplifying that. We've cut down the time of having a user enabled and making calls from what used to be in hours down to minutes now. And that's through optimized automation of building these, I'll call them pipes up towards Microsoft for every new customer that's onboarded. And that extends all the way down to the customer's tenant configuration as well. So we've got tools in place now. As more and more people start using Microsoft as, and in the traditional sense, what a PBX would have done, creating things like hunt groups, calling profiles, specialized routing, etc., etc. So we've built in automation over there as well. And again, that is something the customer will happily pay for, because that then avoids them having to invest in that technical skill set within their own organization, and more so if they have an IT organization that is servicing with day-to-day tasks. They don't have this as an overhead in their to-do list already as well. So automation plays a massive part, and especially from a direct routing perspective, making it a little bit more accessible, especially for organizations who don't have those skills in house.
Yeah, I mean that's so true. Let me maybe just talk about some of those organisations. Those smaller or mid-sized service providers. How is direct routing really aligning this for them? For those maybe slightly smaller service providers that really want to compete in the Microsoft Teams direct routing market, what advice would you give them?
I think it goes back to the earlier advice also, firstly finding what their sweet spot is,
Mm.
because they may be providing a service that is not relevant for a bigger service provider to foray into. And then they add Teams as a component on top of it. So it's many times looking at what your strengths are and then bringing to the table something that will increase those strengths and proliferate that across the communication space as well. So they could very well be serving organizations with, and I can look at smaller organizations like could be charities, could be, you know, small surgeries or shops, and they could be servicing them with licenses and with software, with operating systems, with maybe computers, and just bringing them into the whole spectrum of information technology, whether it's through equipment that they're serving, whether it's software they are providing, for making their business more efficient. But every one of those organizations will need calling capability, whether it's off their mobile phones that they're using, whether they have a landline installed over them. I'm giving my age away by calling it landline, physical handset that got installed over there, being served by somebody. But now again, if they have a foot in the door, if they're already serving them with their technology needs, then there's no reason why they cannot then enable them for Microsoft Teams as well. And again, if they can do that without having to invest in any hardware, any technical skills, and just literally from a user perspective, have Teams available with a dial pad that they can make and receive calls on, then I think it would be a really easy sell. And that's how they can enhance, I think, their capabilities further than what they're already doing across this SOHO or SME space.
Great. So finally, Akshay, maybe let's take a bit of a view looking ahead. Direct routing has evolved immensely over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. We have seen those new services like Operator Connect come into the market. But how do you really see direct routing evolving? In the current landscape we find ourselves in. Is it going to remain kind of at the top spot when it comes to Microsoft Teams Phone, or are we going to see services like Operator Connect, overtake that as the primary kind of option? What is your view there, and how should those organisations who want to invest in Microsoft, think about where they should make those investments?
It very much goes down to the needs, David, I think, of the organization. If you look at Teams right now and break it up into 4 ways that PSTN calling can be enabled, calling plans were always there, and some people have stuck with it because that's been the most sensible choice for them. We can talk about reasons the whole day on what they should have as criteria for making the decision, but calling plans works for them, so they don't need to move at all. Direct routing came in, again, serves a specific need, whether it's legacy infrastructure that needs to integrate into Microsoft Teams, or they want to bring their own SIP trunks, and Operator Connect wasn't there, but it's worked for them. I think it's working well. Operator Connect came in, and primarily looking at enabling service providers to, through an official partnership program, offer their PSTN calling for Microsoft Teams. And now we're looking at Teams Phone Mobile as well, where basically you have the whole native mobility that Teams brings to the handset, leveraging again a multitude of capabilities. I think if we holistically look at Teams enablement, we need to look at what services are we offering. Dstny is in a very interesting position where we can mobile enable. We've been doing that for a couple of decades, and we can also do that with Microsoft Teams. Again, keeping that capability of the user and the requirements of the user very much at the core of what we are trying to deliver. So looking ahead, I think there will be a point of convergence that will happen where you will have Microsoft Teams coming together in a sense, and whether that's going to be a mobile enabled kind of offer of Teams calling that just through a click of a button you can have your native handset ready to support that, regardless of whether you've got Operator Connect or direct routing. Direct routing will be hanging around, I think, for some time because you've got a significant base of users who have equipment already installed. And Operator Connect demands that Teams phone system is basically the only phone system within the whole chain, whereas direct routing gives you the flexibility of leveraging your PBX capabilities. but there's no reason why you can't mobile enable that as well, so that you can have the best of both worlds without really needing the Teams app running on your phone. So there will be a point of convergence, but I think until we figure out what the path will be for this legacy estate of PBXs that exists, there will not be another option. I think that we can at this point.
Great. Actually, I think that's a great place to end today's discussion. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing some of your insights.
Brilliant. You're welcome, David, and it's been good speaking with you and just chatting about this interesting topic, which is relevant across the industry.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you liked today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. That's it from me. See you next time.